I kissed my wife goodbye that morning, and by nightfall I found out everything I believed about our marriage was a lie. This isn't just a story about betrayal, it's about what happens when the truth finally knocks the air out of you. Well, sir, funny how life has a way of hitting you hardest when you least expect it. The person you trust most, the one you share a home, a history, and your heart with, can suddenly feel like a stranger overnight. It's wild. One minute she's your whole world, and the next you're left wondering if you ever knew her at all. So, let me walk you through the day everything fell apart. A tale of betrayal, if you will. It was 8:45 on a Monday morning, not exactly prime time for heartbreak, but there it was. Just a few hours earlier I'd kissed my wife Lauren goodbye like I had for the last 15 years. A light peck on the cheek, a warm, "have a good one," as she headed off to work. Lauren's in real estate and she's good at it. Top tier actually. Big commissions, shiny awards, always on the leaderboard. That morning she tossed me a cheerful, "have a great day," in that fake, over-polished tone she uses for clients, one of those voices that always rubbed me the wrong way. She knew it bothered me. But what really stung was the look she gave me just then. A smirk, barely there, but it was the eyes that got me. There was something off. Like she knew something I didn't. Like I was the last to catch on to a joke everyone else was already laughing at. I shook it off, distracted by all the work I had waiting for me at the office. Month-end reports, client briefings, backlog from the weekend, you name it. I was already buried under it before I even clocked in. I showed up at my usual time, 7:45 a.m., same as always. Dropped my briefcase on my desk and headed straight to the men's room, coffee in hand, hoping to get a few moments of quiet before the madness kicked in. That's when things took a turn I never saw coming. As I stood there at the urinal, out of nowhere, this searing pain hit me, sharp, sudden, like someone had jabbed a red-hot poker right into my groin. I yelped, no, I screamed. Couldn't help it. The pain was unreal. I doubled over, clutching the wall, trying not to collapse. Turns out Alan, my supervisor, been working alongside him for years, was a few stalls down. He heard me and came rushing over, worry all over his face. "Jason, you okay?" he asked, his voice tense. I could barely speak, but I managed. "Feels like I'm burning from the inside." We both looked down. That's when we saw it. A weird, greenish discharge pooling below. I felt sick. I wanted to crawl out of my own skin. Alan, trying to keep calm, said, "All right, buddy, let's not panic. You need to get checked out. Go see a doctor, then let me know what they say." I muttered something about needing to finish a few reports, but even as the words left my mouth, I knew I wasn't thinking straight. Pain has a way of clearing your priorities for you. And right then, in the middle of that sterile office bathroom, with that strange look Lauren gave me earlier still replaying in my head, I felt something else settle in. Dread. And it was only the beginning. I followed the nurse down the hallway as she led me to one of the exam rooms. Her tone was all business, chilly, almost detached, as she motioned for me to sit. "Have a seat, Mr. Watson," she said, not even glancing up from her clipboard. I nodded and took a seat, trying not to let the anxiety show on my face. She sat across from me, focused on the paperwork in front of her. After taking my vitals, blood pressure, temperature, the whole deal, she jotted everything down neatly and turned toward me. "The doctor will be in shortly," she said before heading out of the room. I was left sitting there, heart pounding, mind spinning. It wasn't long before the doctor entered, calm but serious. After a few brief questions he laid it out for me. I'd tested positive for gonorrhea. I sat there, stunned, barely able to process it. The first thing out of my mouth was about my wife, Lauren. "But she didn't have any symptoms," I said, voice shaking. He nodded, explaining that in many cases women don't show symptoms right away, or they mistake them for something else entirely. "You need to have her tested too," he added, his voice firm. "The sooner the better. Untreated, this can lead to serious complications." Before I knew it, I was signing forms and being handed a pack of antibiotics. The doctor reminded me to follow up and take care of myself and then sent me on my way. As I stepped outside into the blinding sunlight, the weight of what had just happened finally hit me. My hands were shaking as I called my boss, Greg, to let him know I wouldn't be coming back in. He sounded genuinely concerned and told me to take the time I needed. But honestly, I wasn't thinking about work anymore. My thoughts drifted back to home, to the life Lauren and I had built. We'd been married for 15 years. From the outside, our home looked picture perfect. Our girls, our house, the life we'd shaped together, it had all felt solid. But now it was like I was standing on cracked ice. Lauren and I were both raised in pretty strict households, the kind where tradition meant everything. Our parents had strong marriages and they passed down very clear beliefs, especially about intimacy before marriage. For me, those values stuck. I never crossed that line. Not once. I waited until I said, I do. I still remember the night I told Lauren I wanted to wait. She smiled at me, kissed me gently, and promised our wedding night would be something unforgettable. And it was. It truly was. Back then, I thought I'd found the kind of love most people spend their whole lives looking for. Over time, I took on more of the household stuff. While she was out showing houses or buried in office work, I stepped into the Mr. Mom role without complaint. I loved being there for our daughters. I treasured every second of it. As they got older, I found myself growing even closer to them. I'd take them to piano recitals, soccer games, guitar lessons, whatever they were into. Lisa was the musician, gentle and expressive. Ginger? That girl could run circles around anyone on the field. Softball, soccer, you name it, she owned it. Lauren missed a lot of that. Always busy. Always somewhere. But me? I was there. That evening, I went over to my parents' house. We still kept our traditions strong. Dad always insisted we start dinners with a prayer, something I'd grown used to since I was a kid. After we bowed our heads and said amen, we settled in for the usual conversation. But I wasn't myself. My father noticed right away. You all right, son? He asked, his eyes full of quiet concern. I looked at him, then back down at my plate. My voice cracked as I finally spoke. I just got back from urgent care. They told me I have gonorrhea. Silence. Just silence. When I finally got the words out, telling my dad what was going on, he didn't explode. He didn't even speak right away. He just sat there, stunned, his face frozen in a quiet kind of shock. My father has always been a man of few words, but in that moment, the silence said everything. I had always looked up to him. He was the kind of person who lived his life by principle, firm but fair. And he had always admired Lauren. Thought she was a gem just like the rest of us had. She seemed like such a good woman, he said, his voice soft, like he didn't quite believe what he was hearing. She had us all fooled, Dad, I said. My mother, sitting beside him, nodded solemnly. She did seem like a wonderful girl, she said quietly. Yeah, I replied. I thought so too. Dad stood up and walked over to the bookshelf in the corner. He pulled down an old Rolodex, one of those relics from before smartphones took over the world. It had this worn, familiar look. He still used it for everything. He thumbed through the cards until he stopped on one and pulled it out with a sort of quiet triumph. Found it, he said. Do you know Gina Hawkins? I nodded. Yeah, she goes to our church, right? She does. And she's a family law attorney. I'm going to give her a call. I wasn't surprised that he had her number. As one of the deacons in the church, Dad always kept those kinds of contacts close. Still, hearing him say it out loud, family law, it made the situation feel even more real. Mom, always practical in a crisis, chimed in. Maybe the girls should stay here with us for a little while. At least until things settle down. You don't want them caught in the middle of this. Dad nodded in agreement. Yeah, that might be best. Why don't you bring them by after school? We'll make sure they get to class on time and have a normal routine. I'll do that, I said, the words heavy in my mouth. Thank you, both of you. Dad walked me to the door and pulled me into a firm hug before I left. It's going to be okay, son, he said. Just take it one step at a time. Back home, the weight of it all was pressing on my shoulders. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more she hadn't told me. I started digging, needing answers, needing something concrete to help make sense of the chaos in my head. That's when I found it. A folder tucked away in a drawer I didn't usually touch. Inside were bank statements, but not from our usual bank. It was an account I'd never seen before. As I scanned the pages, my heart started to race. She'd saved nearly $1 million over the past 8 years. Quietly. On her own. Without ever mentioning it. What was the plan? Was she building a way out? The next day I followed up with Gina. I met her at her office, small but sharp and professional. When I arrived, I asked the receptionist for 2 coffees and a snack tray, just something to fill the awkward silence I knew was coming. A few minutes later, Gina stepped out, motioned me in, and shut the door behind us. I was surprised to get a call from your father this morning, she said, settling into her chair. So, what's going on? I didn't sugarcoat it. I think Lauren's been cheating on me. Her face softened with sympathy. I'm really sorry to hear that. I always thought you two were solid. Yeah, I sighed. I did too. She leaned forward slightly. Do you want to talk about an exit strategy? I hesitated, but only for a moment. I think she's already got one. She's just waiting for the right moment to use it. I told Gina I had a hunch Lauren was waiting. Waiting for the girls to graduate before making any real move. That way she could avoid facing the full emotional fallout of breaking up the family while the kids were still at home. It felt calculated. Cool. But smart in a cruel sort of way. The problem, I said, is I don't have proof. Nothing that would hold up in court. She nodded, calm and steady. Not necessarily, she replied. I know someone, private investigator I've worked with before. He's discreet and efficient. If you'd like, he can start this afternoon. If Lauren's hiding something, we'll find it. I paused, thinking it over. Yeah, I said. Let's do it. Gina then brought up another concern. The girls are getting older. Soon they'll have a say in who they want to live with. Have you thought about seeking custody? I have, I admitted. I want to try for it. She nodded, though I could see a flicker of hesitation. Just so you're aware, courts often lean toward giving primary custody to the mother. But that doesn't mean we won't fight for it. She's hardly ever home, I added. Always out in the evenings, saying she's working or meeting clients. Gina tilted her head slightly. Can I ask something? Are you certain the girls are biologically yours? That hit me like a punch in the chest. I believe so, I said slowly. But even if they're not, my name's on their birth certificates. I raised them. That should count for something, right? Absolutely, she replied, her tone softening. But depending on what we find, it could complicate things. I leaned back in my chair, trying to catch my breath. Is there anything else I should be doing right now? Not just yet, she said. I'll start on the paperwork. Let's wait to see what the investigator finds before we make any big moves. But for now, please go ahead and fill out this checklist. I scanned the sheet as she slid it across the table. Before I got up, she added, you might want to consider talking to her. A real conversation. At the very least, ask her to get tested, for your own protection. If she is seeing someone else, you shouldn't be at risk. That made sense. I nodded. Yeah, I'll talk to her. Later that evening, I made myself a cup of coffee, something I'd picked up from my parents. They never drank alcohol and neither did I. It was a value passed down, like so many others I used to believe made a difference. I sat down at the kitchen table, checklist in hand, hoping to sort through the whirlwind in my head. But I didn't have much time to think. The door flew open and in came my girls, Lisa and Ginger, laughing, full of energy, backpacks slung over their shoulders. It was around the usual time the bus dropped them off, but they weren't used to seeing me home this early. Dad, you're back, Lisa said, running over. Are you okay? Why are you home so early? Ginger asked, concern in her eyes. I forced a smile. It's just been a long day, that's all. They settled in quickly, the way kids do, and soon we were sitting at the table together. I looked at them, really looked. So much of their world was about to shift and they had no idea. Hey, I asked gently. Do you ever feel like your mom doesn't really want to spend time with you? Like maybe she's too busy or just not interested? They exchanged a glance. Lisa was quiet, but Ginger nodded slightly. Yeah, she said after a beat. Like she doesn't really want us around. Like we're bothering her or something. That hurt. Not just for them but for me too. I reached across the table and took their hands. You two mean everything to me, I said. Don't ever forget that. I gave both girls a reassuring smile and pulled them into a hug. You two can bother me anytime you want, I told them, squeezing them close. Then I reached for the small box I'd tucked under my arm. But before we get too comfortable, I need to do something first. I opened the DNA test kit. I need to take a quick cheek swab from both of you. Ginger blinked. A cheek swab. I nodded. Yeah. My lawyer suggested I do a DNA test. Just to be certain. Lisa looked up at me, her eyes full of worry. You don't think we're really your daughters? I softened my tone and placed a hand over hers. Of course I do. With everything in me. But this isn't about doubt, it's about making sure we're protected if things go to court. That seemed to settle them a bit. Lisa gave a quiet nod, and Ginger leaned in for the swab without complaint. I took the samples carefully, sealed them, and put everything back into the kit. Dad, if you and Mom get divorced, Ginger asked softly, can I stay with you? Yeah, Lisa added quickly. Me too. I don't want to be with her. I hope so, I told them, choosing my words gently. I'm going to fight for custody. But just so you know, the courts often side with the mother. It's not always fair, but I won't stop trying. Lisa's face twisted with emotion. I hate her, she whispered. For what she did to us. I wanted to tell her not to say that, wanted to defend Lauren even just a little, but the words wouldn't come. Truth was, I felt the same way. Maybe not hate, but betrayal? Absolutely. I understand how you feel, sweetheart, I said quietly. And I want you to remember something. Whatever happens, I will always love you. That's never going to change. After a few more minutes with the girls, I stood and grabbed my keys. I better head out, I said. Need to drop this off at the lab before they close. Back in the car, I drove in silence, my mind spinning. I reached the lab about half an hour before closing. Inside, I handed the kit to the woman at the front desk. How long until I get the results? I asked. She smiled politely. You should receive them by the end of the week. Great. Thanks, I said, forcing a smile of my own before heading back to the car. On the drive home, something pushed me to make a call. I tapped my Bluetooth earpiece and pulled up Loretta's number, Lauren's older sister. She picked up on the third ring. Hey, she said, a little hesitant. Hi, Loretta. I hope this isn't a bad time. No, it's okay, she replied. I was actually expecting you to call. I wanted to ask something, I said, clearing my throat. If it comes to it, could Lauren stay with you for a while? I mean, if she needs a place. There was a pause. Then a sigh. Honestly? Yes. I already thought about it. If she needs to figure herself out, she can stay with us for a bit. I really appreciate that, I said. I know Frank might not be thrilled, but I don't want to cause any drama. Don't worry about Frank, she replied. I'll handle him. You're not the problem here. We chatted for a few more minutes and then she told me she'd send over a few things I might need, info, photos, maybe even videos. She mentioned a report and said the last few minutes of the audio file were worth listening to. I recommend skipping the video, she added gently. But the audio, listen to it. Then call me, okay? Okay, I said. And, thank you, Loretta. For everything. Of course, she replied. Let's figure this out. After my call with Loretta ended, I sat there for a minute just staring at nothing. Then I opened my laptop and checked my inbox. Gina had emailed me the files just like she said she would. I clicked on the video link, took a deep breath, and scrolled to the timestamp she mentioned in her note. I didn't want to watch it, God knows I didn't, but I hit play anyway and turned up the volume. The scene opened with Lauren and some guy, mid-30s, dressed too casually, way too familiar. They were in what looked like a cozy little wine bar. She was laughing, leaning in close. And then I heard it, the part Gina warned me about. I mean, Greg didn't even know what intimacy really was until after we got married, Lauren said with this smug little smirk on her face. The man chuckled. Wow. Sounds like someone's been living in the dark. Yeah, he's a good dad, she continued, shrugging like she was talking about a neighbor. Takes care of the girls, doesn't complain when I get home late, but beyond that? She paused, then sighed. Honestly, he's just kind of boring. That one landed hard. Felt like she'd reached through the screen and slapped me in the face. Are the girls even his? The man asked, half laughing. Lauren tilted her head and gave a half-hearted shrug. To be honest, I don't know. Maybe. Does it matter? I paused the video, needing air. I stood up, paced the room, then sat back down and forced myself to keep watching. At one point, she started musing about moving to Costa Rica. Who knows, she said, swirling her wine. Maybe it's time to finally chase something new. Oh, I've got a few people in mind, the guy said, clearly flirting. Then he leaned in a little and asked, think you can slip away for a weekend? Of course, she said without hesitation. I'll just tell Greg I've got a mandatory real estate seminar. He'll believe it. My heart sank. I felt hollow. You've got my contact, right? He asked as he started to gather his things. She smiled, playful. Yeah, I've got it. As he got up to leave, he kissed her on the cheek and whispered, I can't wait to see you again, honey. I sat there, frozen. My hand slowly drifted to the laptop and paused the video. I couldn't watch another second. I grabbed my phone and texted Gina a quick reply. Thank you. I owe you. My voice cracked when I said it aloud. Her response was short but warm. My pleasure. Just take care of your girls. After that, I just leaned back on the couch. The tears came before I could stop them. They weren't loud or dramatic, just a slow, steady stream. 15 years. 15 years of my life, of loyalty, of building a home, loving her through everything. And this was what I got in return. The girls were upstairs and I didn't want them to hear me break down. So I kept it quiet. I just sat there and let it pour out. A few minutes later, my phone lit up again. It was Lauren. I hesitated. Then I answered. Hello. Hi, Greg, she said gently. Are you okay? You sound off. It's been a rough day, I said flatly. What's going on? She asked as if she had no idea. I'm just finishing something up, I lied, my voice distant. It's been one of those days. We talked briefly, but the call faded into static and then dropped altogether. I waited. 1 hour passed. Then another. I started to wonder if something had happened. An accident, maybe? She wasn't answering her phone. Almost 3.5 hours later, the home phone rang. I lunged for it, my heart pounding. Maybe this was it. Maybe she was going to tell me everything. As the phone rang, I silently prayed it was Lauren on the other end. I needed answers, needed to hear her voice even if I already knew too much. But when I picked up, it wasn't her. "Greg Watson?" a voice asked. "Yes, this is Greg," I replied cautiously. "This is Angela Barnes calling from Mercy Hospital. Are you Marissa Watson's husband?" My heart sank. "Yes, she's my wife." There was a pause, just long enough to make the air feel heavier. "I'm sorry, Mr. Watson. Your wife was in an accident." My throat tightened. For a moment, everything around me blurred into the background. She's stable, but it was serious. We're still running tests and monitoring her closely. Can you come in? I was already grabbing my keys before she finished the sentence. At the hospital, a nurse was waiting for me near the front desk. Without saying much, she motioned for me to follow her. We walked briskly through sterile halls until we reached the ICU. Standing there was a police officer, mid-40s, calm but serious. "You Mr. Watson?" he asked. "Yes. I'm Officer Simpson. I was one of the first to respond to your wife's crash." "What happened?" I asked, my voice trembling. "She was heading through the intersection at 3rd and Main when a truck ran the red light and slammed into the driver's side of her vehicle. The other driver was under the influence, completely intoxicated. Didn't even try to brake." I swallowed hard. "Is she going to be okay?" "She's lucky to be alive," he said. "She's unconscious right now but stable. The doctors are doing what they can." As he finished, a doctor stepped into the room. "Mr. Watson?" "Yes. I'm Dr. Kinley. I'm overseeing your wife's case tonight. I know this is a lot to process, but there's something else we need to talk about." I braced myself. "We ran a full panel of tests, which is standard in trauma cases. Preliminary results indicate your wife may be HIV positive. We've sent her blood out for confirmation. It could take several days, maybe longer, to get conclusive results." My stomach dropped. I stammered. "I had blood drawn earlier today at a clinic. But I don't know if they tested for HIV. "I strongly recommend getting a full screening," he said gently. "As soon as possible." I nodded, dazed. "Okay. I'll do that." Before I left, I pulled a small envelope from my coat pocket, the one I'd written earlier that evening. I walked back to her room where she lay unconscious, hooked up to machines, bruised and pale. Despite everything, the betrayal, the lies, I couldn't look at her like this and feel nothing. I handed the envelope to the nurse. "Can you make sure she sees this when she wakes up?" "Of course," she replied kindly. "Just place it on that tray over there." I nodded and walked it over, setting it down in her line of sight. I stood there for a long moment, just watching her breathe. This woman, who had been my world, who had shattered it, now looked small and fragile, almost like someone else entirely. Later that night, I called Loretta again to let her know what had happened. Her voice cracked with shock when I told her. "I'm so sorry, Greg. Wow, this is a lot." "I know. She's going to need someone when she's released. I'll help get her things together, but after that, I'm done." "I get it," she said. "And you won't get any pushback from me. I'll talk to Frank. He might grumble, but he'll understand. Thank you for everything." "It's late," she said. "Get some rest, Greg. Just keep me posted, okay?" "I will." When I finally got home, it was nearly midnight. I didn't even have the energy to think. I undressed, dropped my clothes in a pile, and crawled into bed. My body hit the mattress, and before I could even pull the blanket over me, I was out cold. For the first time in what felt like forever. I didn't dream. The next morning, I called the doctor's office, and to my surprise, they had a same-day opening. I didn't hesitate, I booked it right away. After I hung up, another call came through, this one from the lab. The DNA results had arrived. With shaking hands, I opened the email, and as my eyes scanned the report, something inside me eased. Both girls were mine. Biologically, emotionally, in every way that mattered, Lisa and Ginger were my daughters. I sat there for a second, just smiling to myself. After everything, that one truth gave me something solid to hold on to. Later that morning, I met with the insurance agent to assess what was left of Lauren's car. The wreckage was worse up close, crushed metal, shattered glass, but somehow she'd made it out. The agent said almost the same thing I was thinking. It's a miracle she survived that. He confirmed she'd be getting a check soon. The policy covered the damages. As he finished up, I gathered her things from the car, purse, a pair of shoes, some paperwork, and took them over to the apartment she was staying at near the hospital. About a week later, Mom asked if I'd gone to visit her again. No, I admitted. Not since the night I left the letter. I had an appointment at the hospital that afternoon anyway, follow-up testing just to be safe. After that, I gave Loretta a call. She agreed to meet me at the hospital, said it was probably time. Before leaving, I told the girls that their mom was awake now. They barely reacted. I'm going to see her today, I said gently. Do you want to come? Lisa shook her head. No thanks, Dad. I'm still too angry at her. Same here, Ginger added. Plus, I've got homework. I nodded. All right. I'll drop you off at Grandma and Grandpa's on my way. At the hospital, Dr. Kinley met with me again. She's healing well, he said. If things continue like this, she could be discharged within the week. But I'd like to keep her under observation until then. Understood, I said. Is she allowed visitors? Yes, but we'd prefer visits to be brief, he replied. They will be, I promised. A few minutes later, Loretta and I made our way down the hallway with the attending nurse. As we stepped into the room, Lauren was sitting up, holding the envelope I'd left her. Her face looked pale, tired, but aware. Hi, Greg, she said softly. Marissa, I said flatly, not moving closer. She glanced down nervously. I read your letter. I'm seeking sole custody, I told her. You'll have the right to see the girls if, and only if, they want to see you. Right now they don't. That hit her. I could see it in her eyes. I don't blame them, I added. She blinked, stunned by the weight of her own words being turned back on her. I know you hate me too, she whispered. Hate? I repeated. That's strong. Let's just say, my opinion of you has changed. A lot. She nodded, swallowing hard. Do you think you could ever forgive me? I paused. Maybe. One day, I said. But forgiveness doesn't mean I forget. And it sure doesn't mean I trust you. Her voice dropped. If you try to take full custody, I'll fight it. I stared at her. Then fight. I wouldn't recommend that, I said quietly but firmly. Not unless you want the evidence I have to end up in public hands. It's pretty unambiguous. The shift in Lauren's face was instant. Her confidence cracked like thin glass. She knew I wasn't bluffing. I'll be inviting your lawyer to review the documents I've prepared, I continued. I think you'll find them as fair as possible, considering the circumstances. Once you've read them, just sign. Let's bring this sham of a marriage to an end. She turned toward Loretta, eyes pleading without words. But Loretta didn't flinch. Start, she said, by apologizing. To your husband. And your daughters. Lauren turned back to me, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. I'm so sorry, Greg, she whispered. I know you might not believe it, but I do love you. I took a breath, steady but cold. Truth is, I don't trust you. And I probably never will again. Just sign the papers. She lowered her gaze, giving a small nod. No argument. No fight. As I turned to leave, her voice stopped me. Greg, can I call the girls? Please. You can call them whenever you want, I said, turning back slightly. But I can't promise they'll answer. Later that day, Gina met with me again. She handed me a check, just over $150,000. Half of what Lauren had hidden away in that secret account for years. You don't have to accept it all, she said. But it's legally yours. I nodded. I don't need it for me. But for the girls? I'll make it count. I split the money evenly into 2 separate college savings accounts. Their future was what mattered now. Life slowly found a new rhythm. The three of us, me, Lisa, and Ginger, began to build something different. Something honest. I won't lie, being a single father to 2 teenage girls was no small feat, but with help from my mother, and more than a few phone calls for advice, we figured it out. One night, Lisa pulled me aside. Dad, it's not good for you to be alone. I gave her a tired smile. I wouldn't even know where to begin. You're not alone, she said softly. And maybe it's time. Time for what? I asked. To try again, Ginger chimed in, surprising me with her timing. You deserve to be happy too. They were right. They weren't trying to replace their mother or erase the past. They just wanted me to believe in life again. So I took a chance. Her name was Rhonda. Someone I'd known for a while. Someone kind. We had coffee a few times, easy conversation, and one day I asked if she'd like to go out for dinner. I'd love to, she said with a smile. I've been meaning to check out that new Texas Roadhouse. Ever been? Only once, I replied. Steak's not bad. We could hit the movies after if you're up for it. That sounds great, she said. 6:30 okay? Perfect. She even offered to let the girls stay with her daughter, who they already knew from school. It all felt simple. No games. No hidden doors. Just two adults sharing a quiet moment of possibility. We went out that Wednesday. Laughed more than I expected. Ate too much. And for the first time in a long time I felt something shift inside me. Something light. Hopeful. I didn't know if it would go anywhere, but I was willing to find out. The girls were happy for me, though they still treated their mother with guarded hearts. They were polite but distant. Cautious. One Saturday morning while I was sipping coffee and flipping through the news, Lisa and Ginger showed up early at the house. They were supposed to be with their mom until Sunday evening. But their faces were red, eyes swollen with tears. Something had happened.